how to create really colourful designs using just a simple brushstroke and a gradient in Photoshop. First thing to do, I'm just going to quickly create a new document. So File and New, and I'm just going to create just a very basic document, one of these custom ones here, and I'm going to go for a transparent background. That's the key thing there. Background contents, transparent. Create. So you've got that design there. What you can then do is you can go to your brush tool, and brush tool there, and I'm going to go with black. So I've got a transparent background and I'm just going to apply a brush stroke. Now obviously select any kind of brush. Now I'm just going to go for one of these ones, Kyle drawing box, or maybe one of just the default ones. Perfectly reasonable as well. Just select any of the brushes, maybe that one, and then just apply it. Now of course you can vary it in all kinds of ways and you can create all kinds of designs. I'm just going to quickly create a very, very basic squiggle. You can vary the size, of course. Don't have to go for a small. Maybe go for a slightly greater than that. Maybe something like that. Obviously, it depends on the actual document. So, like that sort of design. Maybe fainter. You can vary the pressure. Depends, obviously, if you've got an art pad and pen. If you've just got a standard mouse, you can obviously apply as much as you can with that. But just create any sort of design like that. But you've got the transparent background. So what you can then do is you can go to Select, and you can go to Load Selection, and you can see there, Layer 1 Transparency. So simply click OK. So you can see now transparency has been selected. What you can then do is you can go to the Gradient tool. Just going to go with, now depending on your gradients, you may have a different set of gradients. If you haven't got the legacy gradients, and I'm going to use one of these legacy gradients, that one there, what you can do, go to Window and Gradients, and you see there with the Gradients panel, just go right side and there's Legacy Gradients. So you can bring those gradients and you can see a whole range of different gradients you can use. So you've got a bit more of a range of gradients. Now I'm just going to apply that to that selection. Now I've got difference there, it doesn't particularly matter. I can go with normal, reasonable as well, and with that, just apply it like that. And of course you can apply it a number of times. And of course if you use difference, of course you can create probably a lot greater sort of set of designs. So if I go for difference there, see I'm just going to create design there. So you can create quite a unique sort of unusual gradient for that selection. What you can then do, you can go to Layer, you can go to Layer Style, and then what I'm going to do, I'm just going to add a bevel and emboss. So just set the, obviously depends on the actual size, etc. So I can't say these settings are the exact ones you should go for. You can change the depth, just you can see, vary the depth. Also you can vary the size, so you can make it like that. Now I'm going for inner bevel and smooth, and you can use soften. You can also vary, of course, the angle as well. So you can just tweak that and you get something like that. Also, you may have a different set of options down here. I've gone for bevel and emboss. Also drop shadow. If you can't see that, just go down to this FX and you see down the bottom drop shadow. So you can bring a drop shadow in. So I'm just going to select my drop shadow there, and you've got a little drop shadow. And you can again go to that section there, drop shadow, and you can vary the opacity to make it a bit darker. And you can change the distance, and of course you can interactively modify it as well. So I'm just going to have it just slightly offset from that design. Click OK. Then what I can do, I can deselect at this point. So select and then deselect. So you've got this design. Now, of course, what you can also do, you can duplicate it. You could just hold down the Alt or Option key and just create multiple copies. So you can create far more complex designs. Maybe resize it, rotate, all those sort of things. Maybe distort it. You can go and apply, say, filter and maybe liquify or something. So you can just create some very unusual distorted designs. Up to you. I'm just going to go to the history panel. If you can't see that, window and history, just there, and then just go back and just go to just one again. Perfectly reasonable. You can use 2, 3, 4, 5, however many layers you want to create. So once you've done that, what you can do is you can go over here to the rectangular marquee tool, and you can select that area. Now make certain you select the whole thing. I mean, sometimes just don't cut through the shadow, because then you end up with this sort of like sharp cut-off point. Doesn't look so good. So what you can do, edit and define pattern. Click OK. So now it's stored away in the patterns page. So if you've got window and patterns, you can see, if you go all the way down the bottom, you can see the design there. But now what you can do, you can apply it. I'm just going to go to another document. So that one, perfectly reasonable. Or maybe create another document. So file and new, just quickly show 3000 by 3000 or 2000 by 2, whatever. Create that, and it doesn't have to be transparent. It can be white background at this point. So you can, if you just want to go there, just set that to white, and then create. And then what you can do, you can go to fill, edit and fill. And you can of course apply a gradient or something before that if you want to do that, or maybe have black background, perfectly reasonable. Now you could use other options here, but I'm going to go with pattern. So select pattern, then script, make certain script is on, and then go to random fill. So with random fill, make certain you select the one you just created instead of using one that I've just created earlier in an earlier tutorial. So you've got that design there. You can see that, and then you can click OK. What you end up with then is this thing. Now, unfortunately, the preview does not match the end result. Sort of, but it doesn't. It will in the end. You have to apply it 3 or 4 times, 5 times. Unfortunately, there's no edit fill command multiplied by 10, so we'll apply it 10 times. I would love to see that feature in Photoshop. I have never understood why there isn't an edit fill 10 times, 100 times. Just apply. Obviously, you could create a script to run it, perfectly reasonable as well. But I'm just going to just quickly just do this. You can change the density. It doesn't really make any difference. Sometimes when you go with density, all it does is still doesn't end up anything particularly different. So you might have to apply it 4 or 5 times. Might vary depending on the size of the document. So if you've got a very small document, 1000 by 1000, then it might be okay. Then you can set the, obviously, density. So I've increased the density. Hopefully that will fill more of the document. Then the minimum factor, I'm going for 0.1. So you create very small of those designs. It reduces down, obviously, 10%. And then also a scale factor, 1.21. So it's slightly bigger than what it was when you created it, defined it. And then also a rotate pattern. So you can sort of have it all different angles, which is very nice. And then color randomness. Now I've gone for like 0.8. So you've got a variety of colors there. So you don't just get straight colors you got before, you get a whole variety of different colors. And then there's brightness as well. So you get varying the brightness as well. So you can click OK at this point, and you can see what happens. Like I say, that's the trouble, that you end up with these very big designs. Now you could, of course, have created a slightly smaller initial design, also you can vary it. Just run random tests, just run it different sizes, different size document. But you can then, of course, always go back to edit and fill. Use the same thing again, click OK. And that's what I said about it would be nice if there was you can of course vary it, if you could sort of run it, say 7, 10 times. So you don't have to keep doing this 10 times. But of course, one good thing about doing it every time is, of course, what you can do, you can always go, click OK there, and you can always go to a filter. Now, you can create this on a layer, so you could add it maybe as a smart filter. You can go to, say, filter blur, maybe apply a Gaussian blur. So you can just apply a bit of a blur there. And then, of course, what you can do, you can go to edit and fill, and you can continue on. Again, click OK, and vary it if you want again. Change the density. Of course, you'll notice it just takes a little bit of time to process that case. Click OK, and you can see then you've got the design there. Edit and fill. Click OK. Click OK again, and you can see you can obviously rapidly fill this design up. And obviously, if I apply it once more, I'm certain I'll get rid of that white space there. But it is a pity the preview never matches the end result. No, it still takes a few more goes. But you can see the general result. But of course, once you've got that, of course, you can then go and apply other filters. So filter and stylize, say oil paint. Click OK. Filter oil paint. What you can then do is, of course, you can use this image as a selection. So what you can do, you can, of course, select it manually, just go through using the selection tools. But you don't have to do that, of course. What you can do, you can always just go to various things such as select and colour range. And you can see then you obviously select one of the colours there. Just go through that. And you can, of course, vary it. Fuzziness. So you can create some, maybe a selection there. Click OK. And you've got your another selection. So what you can then do, of course, is you can then go over here, edit and copy. And what I'm going to do then, I'm going to deselect that. I'm just going to say edit and fill, put it back to a completely fresh document. So just don't want pattern there. I'm just going to go with white. And then what I can do is doesn't matter what obviously the color, I've got this design here, which I've just obviously just put in. Now I can use that as a pattern. Perfectly reasonable. I mean, obviously it's going to have a bit of breaks in it, but you can see what you can do. You can use that as a pattern. Now, I'm using this as an example, obviously, of an image. Not a great particular image, but what you could do is use the same approach, say, with a photo. You don't have to use a selection. You could just use, obviously, the image itself completely, but I think it's nice to have a selection because you can manipulate that selection, maybe smooth it down and all that sort of thing. But I'm just going to go with this design here. And then I'm just going to go edit and again define pattern. Now there are limits on the pattern. I think it's like 5,000 by 5,000. So you might find, obviously don't try and create a document with a pattern really super large. But you can always resize it so you can define that as a pattern. You can also, of course, just reduce the size down a bit. Maybe go to, say, filter and blur. Go there and then just blur it. You can see design there, which makes it a bit sort of smooth around the edges a bit. Click OK. And then, of course, what you can do, you can get rid of the background. So window and layers, obviously I haven't got the layers panel yet, but you can see then I can just delete that. So select background, delete that. Yes, delete background. So I've now got that design. It's got transparency again. I mean, it's not, again, not very amazing, but what you can do, you could maybe go to layer style, bevel emboss, and you can maybe apply bevel emboss to it, or a drop shadow, or maybe not. But you can do a variety of different things. Maybe use some styles. You can go to window and styles. So you've got this design. Then, of course, you can also hold down the Alt Option key and duplicate it. Maybe make multiple copies so you can create a sort of very, very unusual sort of a texture design, or not. Up to you. But then what you can do, you can go to over here again, rectangular marquee tool, and just select around the edge, around there, just make certain you don't cut through the design, and then edit and define pattern. And you've got that design. And that's again what you can do. You can just keep doing all these sort of variations. And again, once you've got that, now I'm just going to go back to history and have a fresh document there. So there's the document again. What you can then do is you can go to edit and fill. And then obviously go back to pattern again. And obviously don't choose the one that you've had there. You can choose that one, or you can choose that one. The one obviously with the transparency. Click OK, and it's using random fill. Click OK, and you can see. Now sometimes this is a weird glitch in Photoshop, and that's why I pointed this out before. It's one of those features. It seems to, you noticed it said random fill was actually on, and the script was on. It just ignored it. So sometimes it's actually best, and I pointed this out in other videos, not always, I always forget, sometimes pointed out, but edit and fill. Just make certain the script is on. And I always like to just do it a couple of times like that to make certain it's definitely on. Because like I say, it just ignores it sometimes. It just runs off and applies it and just applies it just as a normal fill, which is rather annoying. Random fill. Click OK. And then you can see what you've got there. You've got this design. Now, here you can see that there's not much randomization because obviously it was fairly black. So you're not getting that sort of randomization in the same way. But I could have applied, obviously created with maybe a gradient involved. But you can see you can get some really nice textures, very rough texture there. And that's using, and this is just using that design you created earlier from that original design. So that's another option. So what you can do a whole loads of different things with these. So I've got that design, got that. And again, I've got this transparency again. And obviously I created that earlier design. But simply go to the brush tool and you can create all kinds of very complex designs, maybe separated designs. maybe add some colour into it in the first place. Doesn't have to be just black. So you can see you can create that. Maybe some pink. And you can see you can create all kinds of different designs. Again, go for selection and load selection. So layer transparency, click OK, and you've got that design. Again, you can go to, if you want, don't have to do this, but layer style, bevel emboss, and you've got your design there. Click OK. And again, what you can do, you can deselect that. So select and deselect, go here, rectangular marquee tool again, and just select that design, and then edit and define pattern. And again, what you can do, exactly the same as before. Let's find a blank document, this one, and just go to edit and go to fill, select that design and thing. So that's so you can do using images, like I was showing with that other one just a few seconds ago, where you can create some really interesting sort of textures. But it doesn't have to be obviously a texture design, it could be a photo. So you can create some interesting design using that. And then, of course, make certain the script is right on, because like I say, sometimes it just ignores it. Really, really weird feature. I've never understood why that fails. And again, you don't have to use normal, but I'm using normalness. You could use difference, whatever. Click OK, and then run it again. So you can apply this, and you can see again with that colour randomness, you've got the scale factor. You've got the scale factor there. You can push it up to a lot larger. The density, and you can of course select different designs. You don't have to just go with this design. You could then maybe go to edit and fill, and then select one of the other designs you've created as well. So you can combine them, maybe do them on different layers, and then combine that as well. Click OK, and run that again. And so once you're happy, of course, with the design, what you can do, you can, obviously I could do that 300 or 400 times. Just go to, say, filter and stylize, maybe oil paint. I'm going for stylization set fairly high, cleanliness fairly high, and you can then apply it, click OK. And of course now, with Photoshop, some really nice new features, you've got this as well. Filter and neural filters, and so this really works really nicely with neural filters. And of course, neural filters, you can see a whole range of different options there. So say select that, and these work just as easy. It doesn't have to be an image. You've got a variety of different things here. Style transfers, really quite nice, can be added to this. Obviously, you can download it to see, do that. And of course, another option is you can always go to image adjustments and maybe hue and saturation, and you can vary the colour. Or maybe go for image and adjustments and colour lookup. And you can see you've got a whole range of different ones there, futuristic, bleak. So you can create a very sort of greyish, miserable looking effect. Very bleak, midwinter look there. So that's it. So brushes combined with grains, combined with colours, can be used to create some interesting selections, which can be used then to create a lovely pattern design, which can be then used to create really quite random, amazing, different colourful backgrounds, overlays, and much, much more. I hope you found this tutorial of interest. Please subscribe to the Graphic Gesture channel. Always adding new tutorials all the time for Photoshop, Illustrator, Affinity Photo, etc. Rebel, especially Rebel 4. I'll be doing some tutorials about that, which is brilliant as well. Also, if you've got any questions, always happy to have some comments put into the thing, and I can hopefully answer some of them, or maybe not. But that sort of thing. Also, a dislike or like. Thank you much.